Hey guys, how y'all doing? This is Kaale, and yeah, I have a guest. This is Chinedu ChukWuka. So, excuse me if I,
Yeah, that's fine. Is that Cinedu ChukWuka?
Chin, you said it best. 'Cause
Yeah.
I take it I take it you're from Africa. Where
Originally from Nigeria.
okay, my folks
Yeah.
are from Liberia.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, that's good.
Yeah, I
Yeah, that's
live in the.
fine.
I was born in the states, and yeah, I don't know anything about Liberia too much. I just know the Civil War. And
Yeah,
that's it.
just the common knowledge, yeah.
Yeah, that's the common knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah,
that's fine. Yeah.
yeah. So, what attracted me to you was your comic, Gago,
Gago. Yeah.
Gago. Now, what's that about? Like, it's about like deities of multiverses and all that stuff. Maybe you can explain it to the audience what it's about.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, the idea for Gago is to show different. I call it the omniverse. It has a lot of multiverses in it. So the idea is to have different genre of comic books fused into one. Okay. Now, when you start reading the book, maybe from the first chapter or something, it gives you the vibe of this is going to be some sort of a superhero story. But then when you move into chapter 2, it gives you this idea that this might be a fantasy story, So basically, the idea is to show as many cultures, as many, genres of comic book making, as many genres of storytelling, and to be able to immerse the audience through these universes. Because basically, the idea is the multiverse. In the multiverse, every universe would have its own culture. Based off of different cultures we might know as it is. Of course, fused with fiction, but the idea remains the same. Is to tell a story that almost everyone, I don't want to generalize by saying everyone, but almost everyone can relate to.
Okay. Yeah, like what inspired you to create this?
What inspired me to create this is to tell uh, not just the African narrative, but as a black man, to tell a story where, we have a lot of characters being handed down to us as Africans or as blacks, I'm talking about when the big two, probably the big publishers like Marvel and DC,
Yeah,
are making black versions of white characters we already know. So I was like, okay,
right.
there are a lot of indie creators out there, a lot of black creators out there. I also want to tell a story of a black, a comic that represents people that look like me.
Yeah,
Yeah. So the deities look like me. When you look at my skin and you look at their skin and you look at my facial features, you know what I mean. They look like they are from African descent, or maybe they're black, or maybe they're dark skinned. But basically, the book is going to be diverse, but more of blacks. The main character has dreadlocks.
yeah, yeah.
Supporting characters, they are all black. So basically, I am trying to tell a story where people that look like me can identify with the main character. They can see themselves in this hero and say, okay, yes, if this hero can do this, then maybe I can do something better with my life. You see, the idea is if I can affect one life positively, to me, that's a win.
Yeah. It
Yeah, so
sounds.
that's
No, I don't mean to cut you. It sounds like on a spiritual type of thing. Like you saying, if I could say that, the way
yeah,
you explaining it.
yeah, because when I look around and I see, you see, now the problem is, even with black comic creators, especially maybe in countries in the Western world, is heavily influenced by probably maybe the American comic book culture, okay, which is driven by people that probably don't really look like us.
Right.
If yeah, you know what I mean. So now,
Yeah.
why don't we tell stories that has other ethnicities in it? Why don't we tell stories that have a black character with, deities of maybe African descent? Of course, fused with fiction, but of African descent.
Right.
So yeah, we want to tell a story where people can look at these things. You can say, okay, yes, I can identify with this character. This character does look like me. this character name looks like my name, you know. So yeah, so that's the idea of it. So it's to just impact in people, probably the younger generation or even my generation or the older generation, is to impact in people just for them to see some sort of, to be able to identify with what they see. That's the idea behind Gago.
Okay. Why don't you elaborate a little bit more with Gago? Like, what's his purpose, and who's he
Yes,
fighting and
yes.
stuff?
Yeah, so the purpose of Gago, a lot of people say things about, there's a lot of stories about world domination. We want to conquer. They want to do this. Those narratives are a little bit overused. Okay, so the story of Gago is one of redemption. Okay, when you read the first chapter of the book, now I used an omniscient point of view for the narrative, where I am the orator. The creator is the orator. You know, when you look at the second chapter of the book, I use a second person narrative. Now, the idea behind it is, for every issue, the narrative is the whole story, or what's going to immerse you into the story is never going to be set from the point of view of the character Gago. It's always people talking about him. It's never about him talking about himself. Say, oh, this is my book. Oh, yeah, I am doing this. Or I want to do this. I want to speak to... No. It's from the perspective of people around him. So basically, the idea of this is... Now, I'm going to make you understand why that I use that storytelling mechanism. Is now, from the first chapter, I've already stated this. Amongst all the other universes, or all the universes that were created, by the Frail. The Frail is that entity of creation. Okay, now he's created a lot of multiverses, but during this creation, there was something we could call a mishap, like scientifically we could say a glitch. Okay, now what is that glitch? The glitch is a universe in itself. The universe is called the Outreach Galaxy. Okay, now the Outreach Galaxy was never meant to exist. You need to understand, they were never meant to exist. They were never part of what was put in place for everything. They were formed out of the remnants of every other multiverse that was formed. Okay? So now, they've created these beings. Okay, yes, the mistake has been made. These beings have been created. How do we now contain these things? Because now, all the universes, they all have unique gifts, unique abilities, they all follow the rules of the Omniverse, except for these people, the people from the Outreach Galaxy. Now, why do they not follow because since they were never meant to be created, now they have dark matter. Okay, they use dark energy and dark matter. Okay, why? Because these are the remnants that were used to create other multiverses. So now how do we contain these people? They then created what is called the Ancients. The Ancients are heavily magically powered beings. Okay, so you need to understand, the creatures or the people of the citizens of the Outreach Galaxy are not magically powered. Everything in the Omniverse follows the magic system. Okay, the magic system is called the Echoes, divine echoes. Now they are the only creatures that don't have divine echoes, because the Frail never intended to create them. So they create the Ancients to say, if these beings ever venture out of their galaxy, kill them, because they were so strong because of the dark energy and the dark matter they could harness. Now, if you read the first chapter of the book, because the dark energy within them was so powerful, it couldn't contain any planets. No planet could house them. So because of that, they had to keep migrating from one planet to the other. And now you need to understand, when they go to a new planet, it's not every planet that can withstand the dark energy. So some of the planets just shatter. And now maybe I should make you understand how powerful these people are. One Imperial Alpha can destroy a planet in like this. In just an energy release, they can so that's to tell you how powerful they are. Then imagine when you have billions of them coexisting within one planet. You can imagine the kind of energy they radiate. Okay, now when they chose, now you need to understand that their galaxy, because like I said earlier, it was never meant to exist. Because of that,
Right.
it exists within two solar systems. There are two suns in their galaxy. Now, imagine where one sun is pulling you in one direction, the other one is pulling you in another direction, and then when you radiate or you orbit within these two suns, sometimes a lot of planets gets destroyed. Okay, now to avoid this, they then have to migrate.
Mm-hmm.
So now they migrate. They finally find a new planet where they can migrate to. Any planet they migrate to, they name it Imperium. Okay, so now they find a new planet. So when they move to a new planet, they then need to be able to create some sort of engineering. When I mean engineering, it's a planetary scale engineering. Okay, the new planet now has a lot of ice, but there's no atmosphere. So they need to create the atmosphere. And how do you create the atmosphere? You need to create, because they use that energy, they now need to look for ways to put in some sort of light energy into it. Okay, to create some sort of atmosphere in the planet. Now they have specific, even among the alphas or among the Imperials, okay, because they know a planet is an Imperium, the citizens are called Imperials. Even amongst them, there are some selected ones that are extremely powerful than the others. Those ones are the ones that do the engineering, or they bring what is needed for the engineering. Those ones are the alphas, so they call them Imperial Alphas. So you need to understand, not everybody is an alpha. Okay? Not everybody is an alpha. It's the special ones that are the Imperial Alphas. So now these Imperial Alphas venture out. Now, how do they get what is needed to keep their planets running, or to create the atmosphere in the planet? Like I stated in the book, in the very first chapter of the book, every planet is held together by a core. Okay, when you take out the core of a planet, that planet gets disintegrated. It destroys to oblivion. Okay, so now one of the things they do is they jump to a planet, they get on that planet, they harvest the core, the planet gets destroyed. Now they use the core of that planet to go power up their own planet to keep it running. Why? Because of the extreme dark energy they are emitting on their planet.
Right.
Yeah. So now, sorry, did you say something?
No.
Okay. So now, Gago, for one, you need to understand this. When they come to your planet, for example, they take away the core of the planet, every life on that planet is gone. You know, it was genocide on a universal scale. You know, they were destroying a lot of planets. And now this became too much for them. And all of a sudden, Gago disappeared. There was no trace of him. There was nothing. He just disappeared. Now, it's about the gist of the first chapter. Okay? Now you can, this is Gago. Okay? Now this is a planet he's come to destroy. You know, like I stated there, he was no exception to this destruction. Okay? So now when you move into the second chapter of the book, the story then the second chapter of the book picks up from the present time. Okay?
Okay.
Now you need to understand the background of Gago. Gago is a destroyer. So their story, the story of the Imperial Alphas, is not one of dominance or to conquer. It is one of survival. They don't do it because they just want to conquer other planets. They do it because they have to do it to keep their own planets running. It's survival of the fittest. You understand what I'm saying? I come to your planet, I'm stronger, and I need my people to survive. So I need to take from you to keep my own planet running. So the Imperial Alphas are not interested in world domination, even if they're powerful enough to do it. They are just interested in survival. Why? Because their own planet has been marked as an anomaly. Their universe has been marked as an anomaly in creation. They should never have existed. So they're struggling to find a place in the omniverse for themselves. So now, Gago disappears from this whole thing. And then, thus, we come to the second chapter of the book. The second chapter of the book starts up. Do you have the second chapter? If you could put it up on the screen.
Yeah, I have the second chapter. My internet is acting up a little bit, but I got some pictures. Just bear with me a bit.
Yeah, that's fine.
You're saying a lot, but I'm getting the simple way of putting it. Like these races of people, they're like wandering like throughout the universe. They've been through they've been through other universes and stuff, and I get it it kind of reminds me a little bit of like, would you say it's dictatorship or something like that? for their survival.
Yeah, so sort of, yeah, because it's a necessity for their survival. Okay, it's a necessity for the survival. Now, this is one of the cover pages for the second chapter. Now, we see Gago. We don't see him in costume anymore. Okay, one thing you're going to run into a lot is the use of African masks. Okay, if you look at the magic glyph on just on the right hand, there's an African mask there. Okay, so there's going to be a lot of depiction of African masks and Africanity in the book. Okay, yeah, just a heads up. Yeah. So now the second chapter we see Gago now living on Earth, like everybody else. Okay, and the narrator of the second chapter, I use a second person point of view for this one. It's from the perspective of the little girl. Now, the little girl is going to take us through the majority of the story. Okay, in some sort of she is trying to discover more about her dad, because Gago is a father, but not a biological father. Okay, Gago adopted her when she was when she was a baby, when she was just a few days old. Okay, so Gago has literally trained her. Now the thing is, how does an Imperial Alpha Imperial Alphas are born devoid of emotions. When I say devoid of emotions, I don't mean just positive emotions. I mean negative emotions. It's why they come to your planet. They can take away the planet core, destroy everybody in there, and just leave. They don't feel pity for you, and they don't feel annoyed. They're just bland. Forgive my lack of. So should I say, just stoic. And the story states it here. The little girl says it. She says, "I live in a house." With a statue that breathes. Gago is a character of few words. That's why a whole lot of the story you're going to be seeing other characters speaking for him. Most of what he does is most of the time.
Like how did?
Yeah, you wanted to ask a question. You had a question.
No, I was asking like, yeah. Can you hear me? Because sometimes I'm breaking up a little bit. Yeah. Like
a lot of books, a lot of stories, a lot of movies, a lot of comic books. There's usually an omniscient point of view, or omniscient storytelling, or a narrative view, which is probably the author speaking. Okay. And gradually, through the exposition method, we understand a little bit about the character bit by bit in character development. Okay, and also sometimes there's also the first person point of view, where the character is the one telling us about the story. Okay, so I want to go for something unique. One, I've already established the fact that when I created Gago is going to be a character of few words. If it's a character of few words that doesn't really say much, there's a need to create some sort of mystery behind this character. Now, this mystery, I want to take you through it, but I don't want to take you through it through his perspective, because he already knows everything about himself. Okay? I want you, as the audience or as a reader, to learn about this character the same way the little girl and every other person learned about Gago. Okay? So the little girl, she, for example, in the second chapter of the book, Gago says, oh, he's been on Earth for 4.5 billion years. And then she says, more immortality talk. She doesn't believe Gago is immortal. She's just 11 years old. She doesn't believe Gago is immortal. So in due time, we are going to understand a little bit more of how she learns about her father, how the dynamics in their relationship, because she's a kid, all right? And she throws tantrums a lot. She doesn't even call him dad. She calls him Gago. Okay.
Yeah.
So in due time, the point of the story is to develop the bond between father and child. How does a destroyer go from somebody who destroys planet go to being a domestic father who takes care of a little girl and a dog? How did someone who's devoid of emotions, how can he then love another person? How can he have a pet? How can he love a pet? How can he love a child? So these are the things we're going to discover through the other characters around him.
It's an interesting story. So he's like a destroyer of worlds, and he's connected to this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So one of the things we'll see, especially in the second chapter of the book, is when the story begins, the little girls say, so it's established in the second chapter, and everybody who's read it knows the divine echoes. Like I said, everything in the universe, has a divine echo. Echoes run through everybody. So it's either you're born with it or you're not born with it. And obviously, there are different classes of magic, okay, and of magic users, okay. It's all in the book. We would learn about those as the story progresses, okay. But amongst the 6 classes of 6 types of divine echoes, there's one that's the rarest one, which is the custodian magic. Custodian magic basically is the ability to summon an entity, a monster, or another being from another plane into your own plane of existence. It's like when sorcerers summon, demons. Okay? So with the custodianship, you have the ability to summon something else into your own plane of existence. All right? So now the little girl is saying, oh, she saw a baby in her room, a black looking baby. When I mean black, I don't mean as a race, I mean in color. Right. She said, oh, she saw a black baby in her room. And Gago's like, okay, that was when she came to get Gago. The previous page you put up on the slide before this one, Yeah, okay. And then they went, she was taking him to go check. And then you could look at the second to the last panel. She's pointing at the floor saying, it was right here. I saw the baby. Okay. So she did see a baby when she got up from bed. When she got up from bed, she did see a baby. But then she went to get Gago to say, come and see what I can see. I don't know what is this. But the thing is, by this point of the story, we're beginning to understand that she's got magic powers, but we don't know what type of magic powers she's got. Okay? Neither do we know what level of magic power she's got. But Gago is now trying to explain to her when they step outside, if you move to the next page. Okay?
I'm on my tablets right now, so
okay, that's fine. So so the next page after that, Gago is trying to explain to her, saying, okay, if you do say you've seen another entity, okay, that means it's custodian magic. And for the 4.5 billion years I've been on Earth, I've never seen a custodian. Okay, so it's that rare that there are almost no custodians on Earth. Okay, and then the girl says, I saw a baby. I know what I saw. All right, and then if you see the page before this one, there's some sort of life lesson taught to her. Okay, now they're outside. They're waiting on top of the Resvani tank, the car, Gago's SUV. And then she says, why are we out early? We're here to meet. So they're out to meet a friend of Gago's who is human. Let's establish that he's human. Okay, right. They're here to meet a friend of Gago's. He's a magic teacher. Okay, and then she's like, why are we out to meet him so early? We know he's going to come late, but we always come out early. Why? So for example, he's the kind of person, Nasty is always late. If you book an appointment with him, he's guaranteed to show up late. And Gago, was for one, always shows up early. So she's like, why do you show up early if this guy always shows up late? It doesn't make any sense. And then Gago tells her, never let the actions of other people affect who you are. Okay? That's a life lesson he's teaching to her. Irrespective of what people are, do not let that affect you or change who you are as a person. You understand? So, and then she says, okay, so since we're here, I saw a baby. You don't believe I saw a baby. If I could do it earlier, I can do it again. So she goes up here on the last panel, if you see that. She said, I'm going to show you. And then here it is. Now you can see something is definitely happening. Something is being summoned. And then she's looking to Gago for help, saying, Gago, what is going on? What is this? What am I? Because you need to understand, her powers are a mystery to her. She doesn't know what she possesses. If you read the synopsis of the book, it says a child that could have more to her destiny. Could have more. So which means there's a potential for her to be great in this story. There's a potential for her to be a massive failure in this story. Right. Let's establish that fact as well. So one thing I want everyone in the audience to understand is the book has 2 simultaneous plots running, but both plots are linked together. There's the part of Gago with, extraterrestrial characters, extremely powerful heavy hitters, extremely powerful characters. And then there's the girl who's human and human-based characters on Earth who are going to be adversaries to her, to our own development. So at some point they're both going to merge. But it's important to state this. That is why from the beginning of the book, I have stated the power hierarchy so we understand. And I stated that the mortals are the weakest of all. Okay, we humans are the weakest of all. You understand? So now she summons this creature. Now, if you read the second panel, he says, "You dare summon me here, child." So.
Oh, this black guy, this entity right here, or?
Yeah, that's an entity. When she summoned it earlier in the morning. It was a baby. Now she's done it again. It's an adult. How? That's a mystery we're going to unveil in the next chapters to come. Okay. Now you can see on the third panel, you can see Gago pushes her backwards. Away from danger. So if there's a page before this one where the entity is fully shown on the page. Okay. Gago then states it. Now let's establish something. Gago's immortal. Gago has seen so many type of entities, in this world or in the omniverse. So he states it. He says, "This is the death god called Black. This is a weaker version, but it is the death god nonetheless."
Right.
You understand? And then this death god proceeds to attack her, the little girl. Now you need to understand, it wasn't trying to attack Gago. It was trying to attack the little girl. And if you look at the third panel there, where his face shows, it says, "No entity will bow to a weak custodian." Okay? No entity will bow to a weak custodian. Okay? That is to state it, that it's only attacking the girl because it perceives the girl to be weak and not strong enough to control his power. Do you understand? So when you summon an entity, it's not just about summoning it. You need to be strong enough to control that entity. Otherwise, it's going to kill you. Yeah. Because it wants to, so when it kills you, it begins to roam in your plane of existence.
How did you create this universe? What are I know it's like African mythology, but what else? Because this is a lot. I'm not gonna lie. It's a take in.
Yes. So basically the idea is to show different alien races, and I would infuse some values and cultures of humanity in those races. So now the idea is not to have everything look humanoid or like humans. In every planet, every race, they'll look different, obviously, like aliens, but they're gonna have basic human values, so we as the readers can all akin or feel some sort of affinity to these characters, or like these characters, or like these cultures. So like I said, diversity was the point of this. Not just diversity in humanity or in our race, or being white or black or Hispanic or whatever, or Middle Eastern, but diversity in the sort of beings that could possibly exist. Their theories. Sorry, you want to say something?
I was asking for you, what's your experience, did you read a lot of books? Besides race, did you read a lot of books on spirituality?
Yeah. I have read a lot of books. I've done a lot of research. You see, the first 10 pages of the first chapter of the book, okay? The first 10 pages was a massive 10 months of research for me. Just the first 10 pages. Where I had to talk about the planets and I had to talk about everything, was 10 months of research. So it is not just about reading books. I've traveled to different countries. I've seen different culture. I've been to Asia. I've been to America. I've been to, obviously, Africa. And now I live in Europe. So I've been to different countries. I've seen different cultures. So the idea is to infuse these different cultures into other races, not just human race now. I'm talking about alien races. So when you read the book, you could say, oh, why does this culture or this race or this alien race seem like my own culture? Maybe you're Haitian. Maybe you're Jamaican. Maybe you're from Asia. Maybe you're from America. From South America. Why does this seem like my culture? So the idea is to infuse it in different characters that look not just like us, but that look different from us as well. So that is a diversity in its utmost sense, was the reason why I decided to create different characters, different universes, and different planets.
I mean, the illustrations, I mean, it's really tight. Like, did you do this, or you had somebody to do the illustration?
Personally, I'm an artist, so I do the illustrations myself. And something else you should know. Yeah, something else you should know. There is no script written somewhere for Gago.
No?
No.
How is that possible?
No. You see the script of Gago?
How were you able to compose this?
So I do have a master's in English literature. Okay? So by profession, one of the things I can do is write. Okay? And drawing is something I've been doing,
so
for...
So you do like drawing, like doing the story? That's what you're saying?
So basically, when I want to work, for example, okay, I don't just sit down and write every single thing I want to do in the book, okay, and say, right, oh, in this chapter, this is going to happen, the next panel is going to be this, the next panel is going to be that. No, because it kills my creativity as an artist. Because when I don't allow my creativity as a writer interfere with my creativity as an artist. Okay, because I'm both the writer and the artist. So I draw the book. I already know what I want to do in the next chapter. Let's make that straight. Okay, I've already paced the story. I paced the story all in my head. Okay, so now the way I draw everything sometimes is I feel like if I plan to draw a page next week, okay, and if I've already said, okay, I've already written down somewhere, this is what I want to do, it's sealed in stone, this is what I want to do. Between now and next week, I could get a new idea. I could be drawing the panel and I could get a new idea, and I'd be like, I want to add this. I want it to go this way. I want it to go that way. So I do not let both interfere with one another. So whilst the thing is, when I'm drawing, the narrative is already in my head. What they're going to say is already in my head.
Right.
Yeah, you wouldn't believe it. This illustration, most of these illustrations were done about 2-3 years ago. I only just did the lettering a few months back, and I was able to remember every single word I wanted on each panel.
So
you
did all the drawing. Not to cut you off, but you did all the drawings by yourself?
Yes, I do all my drawings.
Okay.
Do you mind if I flip? Do you mind if I flip the camera and just show you a little bit of how Gago works?
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, you can do that. You can do that.
Yeah, because I'm
Hold
currently.
on.
Yeah, how do I flip the camera? I'm just trying to flip the camera.
Go to camera.
Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna try showing you something and see a little bit of how. Too bad the if that would have been better to see exactly what I wanted to show.
Well, why don't you just are you on your phone or what?
Yeah, I am on my phone.
So why don't you take the phone out and just show what you want to show?
Yeah, I will.
Oh, okay, all right. I'm gonna just show you pictures.
So, for example, what a page of Gago looks like. I don't know if you can see.
Hold on. I gotta take this out. Okay.
You can see?
Yeah.
So this is from chapter 3. I'm still illustrating this chapter. All right. Now, when you look at it, now you see it's not fully done.
Yeah.
Okay. Now let me show you. Now you see this is the same page This is the same
Yeah.
page. Yeah, but I'm still working on this one. So if you notice,
And you
this is
use
how you
this
saw it.
on Photoshop?
Sorry,
I said you use this on Photoshop.
I do this on Clip Studio Paint.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Clip
Oh,
Studio Paint. So basically, this is how I do the illustrations on, you know, uh, on the book. So like I
yeah.
said, I could hire somebody to draw it, but I I feel like I want to do it myself because I want the book
Nah, I
to.
mean, I'm very impressed with that, man. Like I wanted to like touch you outside the comic book story. Like what's your background? Like what got you started on making comics and like even like drawing and stuff. Like yeah, like when did you start doing this project?
Oh, so this project, I started this project in 2022. Okay, I started
Okay.
project, and that was basically me just doing character designs, writing or uh, synopsises of what I wanted to do. But like I said, all the synopses I wrote, I didn't run with anyone, So it was just how would I say brainstorming, a lot of brainstorming, a lot of research on what I
Yeah.
wanted. Because the first time I published a comic book was 10 years ago. Okay, it was called Blood Trail. I ran about 3 chapters of that book, and then I rebooted the book. I joined a company called Comic Republic. It's one of the biggest publishing brands in Nigeria. I have a book with them called Scion Immortal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I created that book. I drew the first 3 chapters of that book as well. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so, and there was some sort of break where I had to do other things. Okay, so I
Right.
didn't think for about 7 years.
7 years. Okay,
Years I didn't
that's
draw anything.
cool.
Yeah, and then I came back. So coming back into art to relearn everything. Now you need to understand. When I used to draw comics, used to paper, pen on paper. Tablet, I start using drawing applications like Clip Studio Paint and all of those. So it was to say, okay, now I want to create something. I already have a book with a company. Okay, I want something to I don't have so much restrictions on.
Right.
Okay, yeah, I can collaborate with a lot of people. We're currently already working on another collaboration with another creator. Yeah, so there's a book called Hopebreaker. You might have heard of it. Gago and Hopebreaker are going to be collaborating very, very soon. We're working on that as well. So there's the Gago series. There's going to be that series. So I'm also doing other series with a lot of people. So the idea is to get Gago in everyone's faces as much as possible. Okay, to tell the story, to tell his story, or different parts of his story. So that is what we're going to do, or that is what we're trying to do. Yeah, that's that's my Instagram. Yeah, so that's what I'm trying to do. So it's basically just BEO is still in the growing phase, but it's free to read. That's the good thing. We don't charge anything. I don't charge for anything. I invest my own funds in the book. I want everybody to learn about the story. I want everybody to know about the story. I want everybody to have access to the book. Currently the first 2 chapters I think have about 13 or 14,000 views. Okay, on Global Comics. And we are hoping to get more as more chapters releases.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty good. Have you ever been to comic book conventions?
Yeah. I have been to comic book convention. As a matter of fact, in 20,
Oh,
I was given the best comic book artist in Nigeria. I was awarded the best comic book. That was for my other book.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, I have been to a lot of them. So the idea now is, as an indie creator, as a black indie creator, is to, collaborate with other black indie creators, to put our characters out there to show, like I said, to show people that look like us or people that are interested in our work that you can have characters that look like you, some sort of representation in the media phase of some sorts. So that's what we're doing.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's pretty awesome, man. So, like, yeah, give me a second. I'm trying to like, how far do you see Gago?
Yeah,
And what, like,
I guess
how long is the series?
I that a lot, a lot. Now the series is gonna run for no less than it's gonna run for years and maybe decades. You know, yeah, it's gonna run for years and maybe decades because as the story progresses, there's gonna be some sort of not just character development in the sense of the character, but in the sense of age. Okay, so the idea is to see these little girls, this and how does Gago mentor or to be a good person, to be a better person? You know, how does also find redemption from everything he's done in the past? So we're going to follow her through childhood to teenage age to adolescence to adulthood. Okay,
Mm.
that's why
Yeah.
that's why in one of the posters there, one of the adverts, it says you pass, you know, you know. So the idea is she wants to be a better person. Gago wants her to be a better person than he was. If you know what I'm trying to say, you know. So I think it's a basic life. We all want to do better than we were, you know. So that is the idea of the story as well. So it's going to run for a lot and lots of chapters, running into decades because we have to take the story gradually, have everyone immersed in the story, but also still tell the story the way we want to tell the story. So I'm looking at probably not less than 100 episodes.
100 episodes. Wow. Like, did you ever think that it's gonna be like an animated series or something like that? I don't know.
In the future, we get it adapted into anime, you know, anything. I'm all open to that. Hopefully, we can get it. If people love our story that much and they see there's a potential for we to get into something like that, of course, we're definitely going to get it. It's going to also help develop the story and get more viewers in the story and get more viewers into what the story.
Like in the future, do you think that you're gonna hire people like other writers or drawings? So you do all this by yourself?
Yeah. So I do the drawing, but I don't do the paintings myself. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So I go to yeah, but I want the paintings to look in a specific way. So I always hire people that have the same style so that it flows. Okay. So now, definitely in the future, I'm definitely going to hire people but I want to the idea is to get people hooked on the book with the level of quality, you know. Then, yeah, of course, I am going to start on writers who are going to collaborate with me, you know, new ideas. At some point, we always need new ideas, you know, fresh inputs, you know, always good it improves the story to get what creative minds can cook up for the book. It's, of course, I'm definitely going to get more people, you know, to work with me on the book at some point in the future.
I'm sorry. Shit. I'm sorry about a little distractions right there. Yeah,
that's cool. Like,
that's good that you kind of you created this comic book series. Yeah, are there other projects that besides this are you working on or plan to work on in the future?
Yeah, like I said earlier, I'm collaborating with some indie creators as well. Okay.
Okay.
We're gonna be making an announcement soon on a new story that's coming out. It's a crossover series. So for now, it's gonna be a one shot. Just working at the first chapter. If other creators want to hop on it later on, we all collaborate. It's totally fine. It's called Unyielding. Okay. So the idea of because of the story development Gago series and how to take the story, I want to show people a little bit of what Gago is in his rawest form. Okay. What that power output truly looks like, you know. So that's what Unyielding is going to be. Okay. So Unyielding kind of like shows Gago in what Gago used to be, which he's trying to suppress, you know. So it's going to be raw action parts, really powerful Gago we're going to be seeing in that one, you know. So we're gonna see when you read the original series, you're gonna this guy that looks so calm, that that little girl talks down at him, does so you need to understand there's Gago the loving father, and then there's Gago the Imperial Alpha. Okay. Imperial Alpha 1 is the one we are going to be showing in Unyielding. Okay. What is like, what other planets must have gone through from people, or what other races must have gone through from Gago, or what he was able to do, how destructive he was. We're going to be seeing stuff yielding. So it's going to be coming out in the next few weeks. We're going to make the official announcement. We just started off on the book already, the art. I'm not drawing it. Okay, I'm not drawing it because I have to draw the Gago series myself.
Yeah, that's a lot of work.
But I did draw the official cover page for that one. I drew it myself because the only artist I can trust to draw the way I want it to be is me. Okay, I'm sorry to say, I have trust issues when it comes to that. So I drew the official cover for that one myself. But the book, the pages, I am the writer of that one. I'm writing the book, but I'm not drawing it. Okay, so I'm the writer of the book. The other creator, is handling other parts of the project, but I'm the principal writer and every other thing. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yes, so I bring that and every other. It's really exciting. And also, Gago Chapter 3 is already, the art is up. Page I just showed you earlier from Gago Chapter 3. We're just about to start coloring it, start painting it. So hopefully it's going to be ready maybe just after Unyielding is out. Okay, so Unyielding like a place for to feed on while Gago 3. Because with Gago 3, I don't want to rush it. You see, the idea of Gago is when I put out the products, I want it to be a visual masterpiece. So when you look at it, you say, oh yeah, you can see the efforts that went into this. So that's the thing with Gago series. I don't rush it. So we just started. It's once we're done with the painting, the production. So, but definitely Gago 3 is going to be out this year, and maybe Gago 4 as well. So I'm looking at bringing out 3 more books, 1 chapter of Unyielding. So yes. So there's another book we have working on. We're just still writing down and putting another. That one is me and about 13 other creators are doing that one. So there's a lot of projects going on. So it's going to be an exciting year. It's going to be very, very exciting for Gago. And hopefully people fall in love with this character with every book that comes out. They fall in love with this character more and they get immersed into the story we're trying to tell.
What was the hours like just creating this, like just drawing and, brainstorming?
So basically, a panel, you know what a panel is, okay?
Okay, yeah.
A panel takes me 1 day to do. Some artists can do it 1 day. I'm a slow artist, okay? Because I'm not an artist for hire, okay? This is my personal project. So I want to enjoy the process, okay? So it takes me 1 day, standard 1 day, to do one panel. It takes me 1 week to do a whole page.
Wow, okay.
It takes me 1 week to do a whole page. So now if you're looking at the fact I want to release a 10-page comic book, it takes me 10 weeks to draw it. Okay, and it could be faster, but it means with more speed I put in, the quality drops. Okay? And I don't want to reduce the quality. I want to keep the quality the same way it is, So I try to take my time with the book. I try to take my time with the book, and not just taking my time, but I try to enjoy the process as I create.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I get it. Like, because I see like what lured me to reach you is the hard work. And then you showed me like where to go with the website, and I read.
Sorry, you're a little bit muffled.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah. What drew?
Yeah. It's the artwork. I like your artwork, and so I understand what you're saying. Like, it like just drawing a panel. It takes you 1 day. I could see what you're talking about. And just putting it. It isn't how you put it together. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, so in putting, you mean how I put the panel together?
Yeah, like just completing the work. That's what I'm trying to say. Like,
You know, you did that whole thing. Like, I don't think I could do that. Be able to do that. Like, just draw like one day, one panel, and then a week. That's a lot.
That's
Like,
a lot. Understand is you're definitely gonna. There's something we artists call a creative block or art block. Okay, at some point, you just can't do nothing. Okay, to try, you sit down on my workspace for hours, and I would not be able to draw anything. I would not be able to create anything. You know, so sometimes we run into that. Sometimes boredom. You need to understand it's inevitable as an artist. You're gonna get bored. I create this myself. At some point, I get bored, and how do I manage the boredom? I draw chapter 3 and then I get bored. I'm like, oh, I'm tired of this. There's something else in my mind. Sometimes there are things in my mind. I'm like, I really need to put this down. You know, I start getting migraines if I don't draw it out. You know, so I just leave chapter 3. I go draw some part of chapter 4. Okay, so yeah, that's how I put in the page. So usually once I finish drawing the pages, I've got them all drawn, and then I move to the colors. Okay. Now, one of the reasons I don't just draw, and sometimes you could draw a page and send it off for coloring, and draw the next page, send it off for coloring. The reason I don't do that is I could have done page 1, and now I'm drawing page 15, and I've added some sort of detail to page 15. Maybe the character also appears in page 1, and I'm like, okay, I think I need this. I definitely have to put this same detail in page 1. So if I'd had that page 1 colored, I would not be able to add it anymore. So I always like to wait till I finish drawing a chapter, you know, and I'm sure, and I've gone through it, and it flows in my head according to the script I have in my head. This is how I want the book to be. Okay, then I move to color, and then the colorist finishes with his thing. Okay, we finish. I make sure I also play the role of like a creative director, so I make sure the colors flow. I make sure the mood of the colors flows. Okay, everything flows. Once it flows properly, everything is okay. I give the final okay. Then I move to the lettering stage. Okay, the lettering stage is where you see all the speech bubbles, you know, what they say. So that's the only point where I start to write. The reason I write is because I have to send it off to the guy who's going to letter it. So I need to write it like a script and give it to him so he can then put the words. Okay, so after all those are done, I then sit down and read the book from the first page to the last. Okay, some sort of editing, and I edit whatever it is I want, whatever I don't want off, I just take it off, you know, replace it with whatever it is I want to put in there, and then I make sure it's good, and then I send it off to somebody else who I say, okay, could you just read through this thing as well and see if it makes sense? He reads it as well. They say, some things might not, like, okay, for chapter 2, okay, the part where they sit outside on the Resvanitang, the Gago's vehicle, there was supposed to be a lot more things said. Okay, a lot more exposition into the magic world. But then when I read it, it made sense. And I sent it off to somebody else to read, and it was like, there's too much exposition in this. Okay, the audience would prefer if you show them rather than tell them. So I said, okay, I had to rewrite about 4 pages a few days before the book was released. I had to rewrite the dialogue from those 4 pages, take off all the expositions, and then make sure the audience, like you said, it's a lot. The story is a lot. So I want you to get fed bit by bit, so you don't lose track of where you are in the story, or it doesn't get too convoluted and you don't understand what I'm trying to say. So after everything is done, we set a date, we begin to put out the adverts. Okay, we put out the adverts. Once the release day comes, we upload the pages on Global Comics, and then it launches. Once it launches, everybody reads, and then there's also another phase of the adverts that is the out now phase, meaning the book is out, everybody's been hearing coming soon. Now I have to do another campaign called Out Now campaign, where I say, okay, the book is out. If you haven't read it, go read it for free. Okay, and then we try to get as many readers as possible and as many eyes as possible on the book.
Well, I mean, good luck, man. I really appreciate you sharing. Yeah. Like, is there anything like for somebody that want to start, you know, making their own comics?
Like, do you have what's the advice?
What's the about making your comic? Maybe as a writer or as an artist, I can always say,
just start doing something. If you're a writer, just start writing. Start writing. Okay. If you're an artist, just start drawing. How did Gago start? I did an art of Gago before there was a story. I did the art. I was like, I like this design, and then I built a whole world, a whole multiverse on just that character design.
Yeah, man.
Don't wait for all to be in your grasp. Just start doing something. So this is for example, this is the echoes I was telling you about, the magic. So something else you need to understand is the magic skills, the symbols play a lot of roles. So the idea is I don't have to always say this is this magic type, that is that magic type. When you see the symbol, you say, okay, this is it. Okay, this is this. When you see it, you say, okay, this is custodian magic. So whatever the type of magic is, once you see the symbol, so the symbols play a very, very important role in this story. Okay, so that's the thing. Like I said, just start creating something. If you want to start a comic book, you don't have to wait till you have all the story. If you're an artist, make a character design, start drawing something, start putting something together, and all the pieces, you'll be surprised, would feel itself. And also, there are also some technical. I'm talking about the intermediary stage now, not about the beginning anymore. When you get in now, you are going to get bored at some point. You need to stay motivated. Okay, watch things that interest you, things that look like what you want to do. Watch, but don't copy. Get inspirations, but don't copy. Okay, do not plagiarize in any way. Okay, like now, for example, when I was making the research for the first 10 books, the first 10 pages of the first chapter, I told you it took me 10. Okay, I started watching a lot of documentaries, David Attenborough documentary on the planet, on the universes, day and night. I've watched every single documentary David Attenborough I've done. Okay, why? Because it was heavy research for me. I had to know exactly what I wanted to talk about. I had to make sense. So you need to make research. You need to watch things that would keep you motivated. You want to learn about magic type, you want to do magic, watch a lot of animes. They are quite creative and unique. Okay, I had to watch a lot of animes and a lot of things. I had to read a lot of books, even from my own African culture. Okay, because I had to blend a lot of magic types and a lot of African culture and all those things. And then I wanted to do superhero. Nobody does superhero as good as the American culture. I had to start watching a lot of superhero movies, a lot of superhero comic books, and so it's a lot of research. These things keep you motivated. Don't see it as doing so much work. See it as you getting motivation. Okay, so when all of this, it might be a slow burn at the start, but definitely everything is going to flesh out on its own.
Yeah. Well, thank you, brother, for
sharing. I really appreciate it. And I'm gonna check out your comic. Well, I did read some of it. It just, I think it was best for me to hear it from you, because some of the things, I think what the second issue, I had an idea what was it about,
Yeah. So the first one is a lot to take in, because I had to take that risk and doing it that way, because I needed people to just understand it from the beginning. So as we go, the truth is, with the multiverse or with my omniverse, it gets easier. The hardest chapter you're going to read is from there you're going to start everything that's said in the first one. Everything is gotten from the first one. So it gets easier as you read along.
Well, thank you, man. I really appreciate it and stuff like that. Like how people's reactions to it more. So
yeah. For example, I've had a lot of Filipinos send me messages saying, you need to change your name Gago. Gago in Philippine means idiot. And I'm like, yeah, but my character is not Filipino. Okay, so everybody has an idea on what they think you should do. The most important thing is know what you are doing. Okay, everybody always has an idea on what they think you should do. But as a black man, someone who's done a lot of comics, who's seen a lot of, who's been a geek in the comic world, the some form, I try to stay grounded in what my vision is for the book, okay, and what I want to do. It doesn't mean I don't take constructive criticism. Of course I do. Okay, like I told you, the second chapter was supposed to have a lot more explanation on the magic, but then I cut everything out. And I was like, no. Okay, it makes sense now. Somebody else is telling me this, which means if an average reader is telling me this, a lot of people are going to think the same thing. Okay, So I'm like, okay, yeah. So constructive criticism is always good, but do not allow anybody start dictating what you should do, because their experiences and are different from yours. Okay, you know what motivated you to create that book, so you need to keep it that way. Had a lot of companies come to meet me saying, oh, they want to sign up Gago, they want to put him in their universe, they want to start publishing a book. I'm like, no, I don't want to. Okay, I want to keep it with myself. I want my vision for that book to remain the way it is. I want my vision to be seen by everyone, because the more you sign up with this, you sign up with that, you put it here, you put it there. There's a lot of creative directors in those companies as well. They're going to start changing, and then I gradually just do your project for you, you know. And it's one thing I want as an indie, your original idea or your original motivation for a book being taken away by somebody. It just kills the purpose of everything, you know. There's really no reason to create. So you always need to make sure here remain and your purpose.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.